Wealth is built by sustained attention, not scattered effort, because progress doesn't come from how many things you start, it comes from how long you stay committed to the right things. Most people believe success is about speed, luck, or constant movement, but real wealth grows quietly through patience, repetition, and focus applied over time. When your attention is divided, your results are diluted. When your attention is sustained, even ordinary actions begin to compound into extraordinary outcomes. Scattered effort feels productive because it keeps you busy. You're always researching, planning, tweaking, switching directions. It gives the illusion of momentum without demanding real sacrifice. Sustained attention, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront boredom, doubt, and delayed results. It asks you to show up even when there's no excitement, no praise, and no immediate payoff. That's why so few people practice it and why it's so powerful. Wealth rewards those who can stay focused long after the initial motivation fades. Anyone can work hard for a week. Anyone can be disciplined when things are new. But only a small percentage of people can apply consistent effort to the same goal for years. That consistency is what creates leverage. It allows skills to deepen, systems to improve, and judgment to sharpen. Over time, small advantages stack on top of each other until the gap between the focused and the distracted becomes impossible to ignore. Attention is a finite resource, and where you place it determines what grows in your life. When your attention is constantly pulled in different directions, nothing receives enough energy to mature. Ideas stay half-formed, projects remain unfinished, potential never turns into reality. Sustained attention acts like sunlight on a single seed given enough time. It produces results far beyond what seems reasonable at the start. People often underestimate how powerful long-term focus really is because the early stages look unimpressive. Progress is slow, results are invisible, there's no external validation, but beneath the surface something important is happening, habits are forming, understanding is deepening, confidence is being built through repetition, not hype. Eventually, the effort that once felt heavy becomes automatic and momentum begins to carry you forward. Scattered effort keeps people trapped in cycles of starting over. Each new direction resets progress back to zero. Sustained attention allows progress to compound instead of restart. It transforms time from an enemy into an ally. Instead of racing against the clock, you begin working with it. Each day adds to the last, and each year multiplies the results of the previous one. The most dangerous part of scattered effort is that it feels safe, it avoids commitment, it avoids failure. If nothing is fully pursued, nothing can fully fail, but it also means nothing can fully succeed. Sustained attention requires choosing a path and accepting uncertainty. It means trusting that consistent effort will eventually produce clarity, not the other way around. Wealth doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right few things long enough for the payoff to arrive. This applies to skills, businesses, investments, and personal growth. Mastery is simply focus stretched over time. There are no shortcuts that outperform it. When you train yourself to sustain attention, you gain an edge that compounds in every area of life. Decisions become clearer, energy is no longer wasted, progress feels calmer and more deliberate, and slowly, the results begin to reflect the discipline behind them. In the end, wealth is not a sudden breakthrough. It's the visible result of invisible focus applied consistently. Those who understand this stop chasing distractions and start building something real. They don't rush, they don't scatter their effort. They stay, refine, and persist, and that is why they win. Distraction is the silent tax on your income and potential, because it takes from you without asking and charges interest you don't notice until years later. It doesn't announce itself as failure. It shows up as delay, inconsistency, and half-finished goals. You don't feel it in the moment, but over time it quietly reduces what you earn, what you learn, and who you become. Every distraction steals a fragment of your attention, and attention is the source of value. When your mind is constantly pulled away, your work loses depth. You make more mistakes, take longer to complete simple tasks, and rarely enter the state where real progress happens. That state where focus locks in and output multiplies is where income grows. Distraction keeps you permanently on the surface, never long enough in one place to create something valuable. The most dangerous distractions don't feel harmful. They feel harmless, even deserved. A quick scroll, a short break, one more video, one more message. None of these seem expensive on their own, but together they form a system that trains your brain to avoid effort. Over time, your tolerance for concentration weakens, and tasks that once felt manageable begin to feel overwhelming. As your ability to focus declines, so does your earning power. Distraction also destroys momentum. Success depends heavily on continuity, the ability to pick up where you left off and move forward. Every interruption forces your brain to reset, costing more time than the distraction itself. What should take 1 hour turns into 3. What could have been finished today gets postponed indefinitely. The tax compounds not just in time lost, but in energy drained. Income is closely tied to the value you can produce without supervision. People who can focus independently become reliable, efficient, and trusted. People who can't need constant direction and external pressure. Distraction keeps you dependent. It limits how much responsibility others are willing to give you, which limits how much you can earn. Focus, on the other hand, increases autonomy, and autonomy is expensive. Potential suffers even more than income. Distraction prevents you from developing rare skills because mastery requires long periods of deliberate practice. You can't become exceptional while constantly interrupted. You can only remain average, and average in competitive environments is increasingly replaceable. Distraction also emotional noise. It fragments your thinking and weakens your confidence. When you can't follow through, you start doubting yourself. That doubt leads to hesitation, and hesitation leads to missed opportunities. The cost isn't just financial, it's psychological. You stop trusting your ability to execute, and that belief shapes every decision you make. The silent nature of this tax is what makes it so dangerous. There's no bill, no warning, no immediate consequence. You only see the damage when you compare where you are to where you could have been if you had stayed focused. Years pass, and the gap feels mysterious, even though the cause was always present. The solution isn't working harder. It's protecting your attention. It's designing your environment so focus becomes easier than distraction. It's setting boundaries that feel uncomfortable at first but pay dividends over time. When you reduce distraction, your income doesn't just increase, your trajectory changes. You move faster, think clearer, and finish what you start. The silent tax stops draining your future, and your effort finally begins to work in your favor. Rich people protect their focus like an asset because they understand something most people overlook. Attention is what creates value, and value is what produces money. They don't see focus as a personality trait or a temporary mood. They treat it like capital, something to invest wisely, guard aggressively, and never waste on things that don't compound. They design their lives to reduce friction around important work. That means fewer unnecessary decisions, fewer distractions, and fewer commitments that pull them away from what matters most. It's not about being busy or impressive, it's about being effective. Every interruption is seen as a withdrawal from an account they're trying to grow. Where others react, they plan. Where others chase urgency, they prioritize impact. This is why their days often look simple from the outside. The simplicity is intentional. Complexity creates noise, and noise destroys focus. By keeping their attention concentrated, they make better decisions, execute faster, and avoid costly mistakes. They also understand that focus is fragile. It can be damaged by stress, poor boundaries, and constant stimulation. That's why they protect it not just during work, but in how they rest, what they consume, and who they allow access to their time. They say no often, even to good opportunities, because they know saying yes to everything guarantees mediocrity. Most people treat focus casually. They give it away to notifications, opinions, and endless consumption. Rich people see that as reckless. They limit inputs so outputs can improve. Less noise in means clearer thinking out. This clarity compounds. Over time, it becomes judgment, the ability to see what matters and what doesn't faster than others. Protecting focus also means delaying gratification. Focus requires staying with difficult problems long enough to solve them. It means resisting the urge for quick wins in favor of outcomes that take time to mature. This patience creates leverage. While others quit, they continue. While others look for shortcuts, they refine their process. They don't confuse entertainment with recovery. Rest is intentional. It restores energy so focus can be sharp when it's needed. Distraction, on the other hand, fragments attention and leaves them mentally exhausted without producing anything of value. That difference alone creates a massive gap over years. Because their focus is protected, their work compounds, skills deepen, systems improve, relationships strengthen. Money becomes a byproduct of consistent, high-quality attention applied to the right areas. In the end, protecting focus is not about discipline alone. It's about respect for time, energy, and long-term goals. Rich people don't just work harder or smarter, they work with undivided attention. And that is why their results look inevitable rather than lucky. Mastering focus is more important than motivation or talent because focus is what turns potential into results. Motivation is temporary. Talent is unevenly distributed, but focus is a skill that determines whether either of those things ever get used. Without focus, motivation fades before work is finished, and talent stays trapped at the level of intention. Motivation comes and goes. It rises when things are exciting and disappears when work becomes repetitive or uncomfortable. If your progress depends on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. Focus doesn't ask how you feel. It allows you to show up anyway. It carries you through the dull, frustrating phases where real growth happens and where most people quit. Talent creates possibility, not outcome. There are countless talented people who never succeed because they can't apply their ability consistently. Skill without focus is wasted energy. Focus directs effort into a narrow channel, allowing talent to deepen instead of scatter. Over time, focused practice will outperform raw ability every single time. Focus also builds momentum, and momentum reduces the need for motivation. When you work with sustained attention, progress becomes visible. Visible progress reinforces commitment. Commitment creates confidence. This cycle is far more reliable than waiting to feel inspired. Inspiration follows action far more often than it precedes it. Another reason focus matters more than talent is that the modern world is engineered to steal attention. Being able to concentrate deeply is now a rare advantage. People who can maintain focus while others are constantly distracted produce higher quality work in less time. That efficiency compounds into better opportunities, higher trust, and greater income. Focus simplifies decision making. When your attention is clear, priorities are obvious. You waste less time debating and more time executing. Talent without focus often leads to overthinking and hesitation. Focus cuts through noise and turns complexity into clear next steps. Mastering focus also creates emotional stability. When you can direct your attention, you're less reactive. You're not constantly pulled into comparison, urgency, or external pressure. That calm makes you harder to manipulate and easier to trust with responsibility. Responsibility is what leads to leverage, and leverage is what leads to wealth. Over time, focus reshapes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who finishes, who follows through, who can be relied upon. That self-image is powerful. It influences how others treat you and how you treat yourself. Talent may open a door, but focus determines how far you walk through it. In the long run, the ability to focus is what sustains success. Motivation might get you started, and talent might give you an edge, But focus is what keeps you moving when progress slows and pressure increases. Those who master it don't just succeed more often, they succeed more predictably. Long term wealth comes from finishing what others abandon, because most opportunities are not lost to competition, they're lost to impatience. People don't fail because something is impossible. They fail because it takes longer, feels harder, and requires more consistency than they expected. The moment excitement fades, most walk away. The few who stay inherit the rewards. The early stages of any worthwhile pursuit are crowded. Everyone is motivated when results seem close and effort feels light, but as time passes, progress slows, obstacles appear, and the work becomes repetitive. That's when the drop off begins. Each person who quits reduces competition and increases the value available to those who remain. Finishing is rare because it demands emotional endurance. It requires tolerating boredom, uncertainty, and delayed gratification without reassurance. Most people need constant feedback to keep going. When that feedback disappears, so does their commitment. Wealth favors those who can continue without applause. When you finish what others abandon, you gain more than results, you gain compounding advantages. Experience deepens, systems improve, mistakes become lessons instead of dead ends. While others restart from zero, you continue building on top of existing progress. Time stops being wasted and starts working for you. Abandonment resets the clock. Each new start feels hopeful, but hope without follow through produces nothing. Finishing transforms effort into assets, skills become reliable, reputations form, trust grows. These are things that cannot be rushed or replicated quickly, and they create barriers that protect long-term success. Most people underestimate how close they are to meaningful results when they quit. Progress often looks flat right before it accelerates. The discomfort they feel is not failure, it's resistance giving way. Those who leave at that moment never see the payoff. Those who stay often experience breakthroughs that appear sudden from the outside but were years in the making. Long-term wealth also requires staying through cycles. Markets change, trends shift, results fluctuate. People who abandon their path at the first downturn lock in loss. People who persist through cycles allow recovery, growth, and compounding to take effect. Patience isn't passive, it's an active decision to endure volatility. Finishing also builds identity. You become someone who completes, not someone who tries. That identity shapes future behavior. Confidence grows from evidence, not optimism. Each finished project strengthens your belief in your ability to see things through, making the next challenge easier to handle. Wealth rarely comes from brilliance or speed. It comes from reliability over time. The person who finishes gains skills, credibility, and momentum that cannot be bought. They don't win because they are better at starting. They win because they are better at staying. In the end, success doesn't belong to the most excited, the most gifted, or the most motivated. It belongs to those who remain when others leave. They finish, and by finishing what others abandon, they quietly accumulate what others only chase.